My name is Michelle Braska, and I'll be doing my presentation on urban agriculture, focusing on what's happening in the Cleveland, Ohio area. First, I'll start off with an overview of urban agriculture and its presence in Cleveland. I'll follow that with a closer look at Cleveland's vacant land problem and two profiles of urban agriculture projects in the area. Lastly, I'll talk about the zoning code changes that have allowed community gardens and urban farms to prosper in Cleveland. The picture on the left on this slide is of Standard Farm, which is located on the city's east side. It's run by the County Department of Developmental Disabilities and Cleveland Crops. The farm and its adjoined food processing center employs individuals in the county with developmental disabilities. The picture on the right is of Trinity Cathedral Community Garden, which is also on the city's east side and is run by members of the church who donate much of their produce to the church's food pantry. The most technical definition I could find for urban agriculture is that it's the process of cultivating, processing, and distributing food in or around a village, town, or city. This includes community gardens, which are typically smaller in scale, urban farms, which are usually much larger and sell their produce, market gardens, which also sell their produce but are normally smaller in scale, and CSAs. CSAs, or community-supported agriculture, are a local form of agriculture and food distribution where the consumer pays at the beginning of the season for a share of the harvest. Once harvesting begins, the consumer receives weekly shares of produce and sometimes other farm products. In Cuyahoga County, which is Cleveland's home county, almost all the smaller scale community gardens are facilitated through the Ohio State University County Extension Office. OSU Extension monitors 250 gardens in Cuyahoga County as of last year. 190 of these are located within the City of Cleveland limits. These community gardens can range in size from a single urban parcel, which is approximately 400 square feet on average, to 5 acres, with the largest community garden. There are also 20 urban farms in Cuyahoga County, which are typically a couple acres in size. The picture on the left on this slide is of Kentucky Gardens, a community garden in Cleveland's Ohio City neighborhood, which is on the west side. It's one of the city's largest community gardens with more than 200 plots, which are typically around 200 square feet each. The picture on the right is of Ohio City Farm, which will be discussed in further detail later in the presentation. As many of us probably know, Cleveland has a huge problem with vacant land and general disinvestment in the city. It was once the fifth largest city in the country and peaked in population in the 1950s, just under 1 million people at 915,000. It's been declining pretty steadily since then, and by 2000 was down to 478,000 people. Today the population sits right around 390,000, but because of this extreme population decline, there are an estimated 3,300 vacant lots within city limits and approximately 15,000 vacant buildings, which is the highest in the state. Just for reference, Cincinnati currently has about half the number of vacant buildings. So the map on this page illustrates the number of vacant houses per square mile, just an estimate, with the heaviest concentrations apparent on the east side, with the darkest blue, which is between 600 and 800 houses per square mile. Both the photos on this slide are also from Cleveland, or the Cleveland area. The top is from what's called the Forgotten Triangle, and the bottom in East Cleveland, which is a municipality just outside of city limits, but with the same struggles as Cleveland. The Forgotten Triangle, which is one of the city's most devastated areas, is in dark blue on the map. It was once the site of a massive fire that started at a single residence, but when firefighters showed up, they turned on the fire hydrants and realized that there was no water in them, so they had no way to fight the fire. It spread from building to building, and much of the land remains vacant today, although it's now home to Cleveland's Urban Agriculture Innovation Zone, which will be discussed later. So now I'll do a quick profile of two urban agriculture projects in Cleveland. The first shown on this slide is Ohio City Farm, which is located in Cleveland's Ohio City neighborhood, which is on the west side of the town. This garden is just a block from the infamous West Side Market and Great Lakes Brewing Company. It's also located just behind a public housing high-rise named Riverview Terrace, and it's one of the country's largest contiguous urban farms at 6 acres in size. Originally, the site contained 10 low-rise public housing buildings with a total of 135 units, in addition to the current 15-story high-rise that's still there today. Cuyahoga County Metropolitan Housing Authority applied and received a Hope 6 grant, which allows them to develop a new mixed-income property. So plans were developed for the mixed-income development in 1998, and the low-rise buildings were demolished 2 years later, but the land sat vacant for almost 10 years until community leaders, the City of Cleveland, and the Housing Authority began a discussion about the suitability of the site for an urban farm. The farm opened in 2010 in partnership with the Neighborhoods Community Development Corporation, City Council, and the Housing Authority, along with nearby businesses who participate in the farm. So Ohio City Farm is designed to incubate entrepreneurial farm businesses and support workforce development programs in Cleveland. It provides urban farmers who have plots there with low-cost land, shared facilities, and technical assistance in order to support these entrepreneurial farmers. Farm tenants are expected, though, to run economically viable businesses and provide financial information on their operation. The farm also has a farm stand on site, which allows for the sale of produce from the farm. It's built in an old shipping container. It allows for the sale of produce directly to consumers with 50% discount for all public housing residents. Farmers also offer CSA subscriptions, community supported agriculture, through the farm stand. In 2011, the farm stand sold $6,000 of produce directly to consumers. They brought in $22,000 from their 47 CSA subscriptions and sold produce to a dozen Cleveland restaurants. Great Lakes Brewing Company, which has a plot at the farm, saw over $15,000 worth of produce harvested for use in their brew pub, which is located just 2 blocks away. The map on this slide shows the other farm tenants along with the farm stand and the farm's location, which is just across the Cuyahoga River from downtown. The second project I'll be talking about is Ben Franklin Community Garden, located in Cleveland's Old Brooklyn neighborhood. It is the largest community garden in Cuyahoga County at 5 acres in size. It was originally created as one of 14 school tract gardens in the city. In 1922, Cleveland School District bought 11 acres of land from a private farmer, with half to be used for the construction of the school and half for a garden. The school was built in 1923, and horticulture classes were taught to students in the garden starting in 1924. The garden was initially used as a nursery to grow plants for landscaping at other Cleveland schools, but was eventually, over time, divided into individual plots. Today, the garden has 204 plots, averaging 180 gardeners per year. It includes a children's garden for the school students, a perennial garden, an outdoor classroom, and a demonstration garden. The County Extension's office provides technical assistance for this garden, along with seeds, plants, soil, and various other materials. It also provides these services to all of its other gardens throughout the county. They also run a Master Gardener program, who use the demonstration gardens to provide educational programs related to gardening for the general public. The bottom left picture on this slide shows the outdoor classroom, which is still in use today by the school for classes about the garden, produce, and other plants in the space. And the picture above that shows Cleveland's Mayor, Frank Jackson, who's still in office, exploring the garden with one of the gardeners. This garden is run by the neighborhood CDC and also through OSU Extension, and gardeners come from all over the city and surrounding suburbs to garden here just because it's so well known and so popular. Now I'll give an overview of the zoning code changes that the city has made to allow urban agriculture to prosper in Cleveland as an industry and as a land use. First is the Urban Garden Zoning District, which ensures the preservation of community garden land and also allows farm stands in residential districts. Agriculture is already permitted as a principal use on all residential lots, but the sale of produce was up to approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The push for adoption of the zoning district began after a controversy with a developer who kicked community gardeners off the land that they had been using for decades to construct a parking lot for his residential building that he was developing next door. The zoning district changes the designation of a parcel to an urban garden land, essentially to ensure its protection, so that in the future if someone were to develop it, they would have to get a zoning change. And it also allows the sale of produce without approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals. This zoning district also permits accessory structures such as greenhouses, hoop houses, cold frames, and other season extension structures that would come along with doing a garden. It designates the signage that is allowed for the garden, along with things such as benches, bike racks, parking spaces, compost bins, picnic tables, farm stands, fences, chicken coops, and beehives. Just like any normal zoning code that you would see for any city, any other district, it states where structures such as sheds are allowed within the parcel, along with their height and lot coverage. Cleveland has also adopted their chicken and bee zoning, which is probably its most interesting zoning code change. It permits various animals in the city based on your lot type and lot size. So, for example, no more than one chicken is allowed per 800 square feet of parcel area in a residential district. A standard city lot in Cleveland is 4,800 square feet, which would mean that no more than 6 chickens are allowed on a typical residential lot. In non-residential districts, though, 1 chicken is allowed per 400 square feet of area. The city also allows goats, pigs, sheep, and similar animals. In residential districts, in order to keep these animals, a parcel must be 24,000 square feet in area. So if you have a residential parcel that's at least 24,000 square feet, a maximum of 2 of these animals may be kept on the property, with 1 additional animal allowed for each 2,400 square feet of area. In a non-residential district, though, no goats, pigs, sheep, or similar farm animals may be kept on a parcel that is less than 14,400 square feet. So if you have a non-residential parcel that's at least 14,400 square feet in size, you're allowed a maximum of 2 of these animals, with 1 additional animal for each 1,200 square feet in area. So essentially in non-residential districts, you can have more animals per square footage of your site. Bees are also allowed within city limits, with 1 beehive permitted per 2,400 square feet of lot area. And the zoning code adoption also regulates the location of stables, coops, enclosures, and hives, similarly to the regulation of building size and location on a parcel in any typical zoning district. There are community gardens that actually make use of this chicken and bee regulations, along with private property owners who have them in their backyards, with many just having chickens and beehives. The photos on this page are from a community garden in Cleveland that has a chicken coop, one of many, where OSU Extension was providing a public workshop about raising chickens. The final zoning code adoption that I'll talk about is the Urban Agriculture Overlay District, which is the most recent, and it permits uses in an underlying zoning district, but also permits urban farms, community gardens, and market gardens. So the minimum size allowed for this overlay is 1 acre. It has similar regulations to the previously discussed urban garden zoning district, but also allows a greater intensity of animal raising than in that district and in the chicken and bee regulations. In short, the overlay permits 1 chicken, duck, goose, turkey, or rabbit per 100 square feet of lot area, which is quite a bit less than the chicken and bee zoning. Roosters, though, require 10,000 square feet of land. The overlay also allows 1 goat, pig, sheep, or similar animal per 4,000 square feet of land. Horses, cows, alpacas, and llamas are also allowed in this overlay district, and similar larger animals at 1 per 8,000 square feet of area, along with 1 beehive per 1,000 square feet of lot area. The overlay also regulates the location of stables and enclosures, including distance from a road, an adjoining property, and a residential district that's nearby. It also includes regulations about composting, retail sales, and slaughtering, which is actually permitted on urban farms, but only within this overlay district. Cleveland's Urban Agriculture Innovation Zone, which is home to a number of urban farms, is representative of the effect that this overlay can have. The zone, which is located in the Forgotten Triangle, which was discussed earlier, has been designated as an area to create economic development opportunities based on agriculture in an area that has been devastated and has a huge abundance of vacant land. It's home to the urban farm Riddall, which is pictured on this slide. They currently own approximately 3 acres of land, but they're ever expanding. They have 6 greenhouses currently to extend the growing season. Another entrepreneurial farm, which is similar to Ohio City Farm, is also located in this area and is run by the Ohio State University County Extension Office. This farm that's run by OSU Extension is named Kinsman Farm, and it provides similar benefits to the Ohio City Farm, including low-cost land, shared facilities, and technical assistance for farmers, and it also requires these entrepreneurial farmers to run an economically viable operation. Many of these farmers sell their produce at local farmers markets, as there is no farm stand on site like at Ohio City Farm. While urban agriculture and community gardens may not always be considered the highest and best use for vacant land by planners, the abundance of vacant lots in Cleveland will take many years to redevelop based on current demand, if it ever even happens at all in many areas. For this reason, Cleveland has made growing produce easy for its residents. Urban agriculture can provide excellent opportunities for community building, especially with community gardens, and increases accessibility to healthy and locally grown foods. The use of vacant lots for growing produce is also preferable to lots that sit unused and overgrown, which bring down nearby property values drastically. It may just be a trend for now, but it's something important for urban planners to consider, especially if it sticks around.